Whether you've served in the military yourself or you have a loved one who is a veteran, here in the United States, Veterans Day is a very important part of our year. It's a national holiday where we pause to give thanks to the people who've stood in the gap between ourselves and danger and have worked to preserve our way of life. I know that we have a lot of international listeners as well. So you may not know that November 11th is an important day in the United States, but I bet you know what it's like to feel gratitude toward the people who preserve your way of life in your country and who stand between you and danger. So even though we're talking about Veterans Day in the United States, I hope you will also feel connected to this podcast as well. Today, I'm joined by my husband, Chad Foster. He is a military veteran. He served 8 years in the Army. He did 2 combat tours during that time and was awarded the Bronze Star. He came home to the United States and became a part of the Texas Department of Public Safety. He currently serves as a sergeant in commercial vehicle enforcement and is the state coordinator for the Department Veteran Assistant Program to support the veterans who work in DPS, because it's not uncommon for veterans to come home and then take on a first responder role because it's what they're used to, helping the citizens. Chad's going to tell us about that. He's going to tell us a little bit about what it's like to serve in combat and then come home and re-assimilate. He's going to tell us about the Department Veteran Assistant Program and what they do. And then he's going to tell us some things that we can do to help support our veterans, not only around Veterans Day, but every day. It's a good conversation. Stay tuned.
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you 'cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.
Welcome back to the Gen X Juggler Podcast, this very unique in-studio interview. Actually, it's very cool to have someone in studio. I'm enjoying that. As I said earlier, my guest today is Chad Foster. He is a combat veteran. He was in Operation Iraqi Freedom 1 and 3. And he now serves veterans in the Texas Department of Public Safety, veterans who have come back from serving in the military and now are working for the Texas Department of Public Safety. And he's going to tell you all about that and how he became passionate about helping veterans. Would you like to start just telling us about your military service and what it was like to come back from that?
Yeah. So I was enlisted in the U.S. Army, and so I did 8 years, completed 8 years active duty, and I did 4 years stationed over in Germany, and then 4 years stationed back in the States. Overseas for a majority of that 8 years, somewhere over the seas, and deployed to Iraq at the beginning of 2003, and went all the way into 2004. It was an experience, to say the least. I was in combat arms for my entire 8 years in the Army. Came back from the first tour, and then just to be able to go back again under orders, So, and then, experienced a lot of things. Of course, it is combat and it is war. So there was a lot of things, going from one extreme to the other extreme. I mean, basically 180 degrees on the spectrum there on the two different worlds that we were living, right? And so getting back and then being thrown back into American society, right? Back into just the normal society and the normal world that you had left before combat and before war, right? And trying to make that adjustment without any guidance, any heads up, any warnings, nothing. There was no help. There was nothing during that time. And so all of us in that same boat had to come back and try to figure it out for ourselves. And that's not good for anybody. And it wasn't good for us. I mean, same as the Vietnam veterans who suffered when they come back. There was nothing there for them when they got back home. I mean, we had it better than Vietnam veterans for sure.
Yeah. You were celebrated when you came
Right.
back. Yes.
And I don't want to take any of that away from them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they definitely had it worse and harder than we did. But in the same breath, nobody was prepared for the next step of coming home.
Yeah, because you were there long enough to change your mindset quite a bit. You just kind of had to, the whole time you were overseas in combat situations, you had to just have your head on a swivel the whole
Correct.
time and just be hyper vigilant the whole time.
The hypervigilance is, I mean, there should be a better word for that because it's, you know,
It's
that's an
hyper
understatement.
vigilance. Yeah.
You know, hypervigilance is an understatement in combat. You know, and it was a different combat. It wasn't like Vietnam or World War II or World War One where we were, you know, it was a different fighting style, basically, right?
Yeah.
And
Not everyone, you've told me not everyone was identifiable
No.
as a soldier. So that makes it even more.
You know, they could be selling something to the soldiers in the market, in the civilian market out, you know, in the country, you know, wherever we were at the time, right? So they'd be 1 minute they'd be out in the market selling items and things to the soldiers, and then the very next day they were fighting us. And you never know who was actually enemy and who was friend or foe, right?
Yeah, that would be scary.
It was, so you always had to have that mindset that no matter how they appeared or what they were doing at the moment, you had to have the mindset that they were ultimately very high possibility that they were the enemy, right? So it's just different. It's a different vigilance than just facing off
Yeah.
uniform to uniform, right?
Oh, definitely.
And I think that, I mean, we basically, at the beginning of that conflict, we had to basically just kind of reinvent the wheel, you know, as we went. We had to change. We went from, you know, fighting a uniform to not fighting the uniform, and then having to completely change our tactics, I mean, overnight, you know. And so I think that plays hard on, you know, all of us at that moment.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't, you know, the hardest thing, you know, when you're in combat, you're like, this is the hardest thing on earth, right?
Right.
And then you get home, and whether it's 6 months or a year or 2 years later, you realize, well, the combat was the easiest part, you know, compared to what a lot of us struggle with day in and day out, the years after the combat experience, right? And a lot of us, and a lot of veterans, and a lot of us have moved on into first responders, you know, and things like that when
Being first responders
being
as your
first
career.
responders as a career when you get out of the military.
Yeah.
Because it just kind of falls right in line with the way we've been trained, you know.
Yeah.
So if you go from training at peacetime in the military, you go from training 295 days a year, you know, and doing a specific thing and becoming and perfecting your skill set. And then you come back, it's easy to fall into the first line or the first responders career, right? Because it just kind of, it's what they call paramilitary,
Yes.
right? So it's the closest thing it's basically the closest careers we can have to what we know, right? And I think that's why a lot of us fall into that.
Yeah. You spend so much time training and becoming good at the career in the military, and then you come home and you don't have that career anymore.
Right. And no guidance, no help on, you know, I mean, there was nothing, no one just, when we got out of the military, when we came home from combat, there was no, hey, I got a job for you. You know, there was nothing given to us.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, and that's So I was lucky enough. I was one of the few lucky ones that was able to land the career that I'm in now, right? And it's so much could have gone the other way for any of us. And so that's a blessing within itself. But as you know, when I was new to this profession, I went through my darkest hours. It was rough. It was hard. And trying to get back into society and trying to learn how to live again, how to become in contact with our emotions and things like that, and how to try to keep things, because we forgot how to do that, and we come home and we don't, the friends we had before we went to combat, we can't get along with anymore, a lot of different things. It's not all the time, but all of the veterans, you're not the same person as you are you're not the same person you left when you come back.
Right.
Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
you're not the same person when you come back from what you were when you left before
Yes.
combat.
Yeah.
And I don't
Does
care
make
what anybody says, it changes you. And it has to change you, because you have to change to survive and to conduct your duties and your job, your specific job in combat to a perfection. So you have to change your mindset or you're not going to be successful, right?
Right.
And when I say successful, it's not that, well, you didn't get the project done, you didn't land the client. This is lives.
Stakes are
You know,
high.
if you're not successful, people die, right? So there's a lot more perfection expected from the veteran, especially coming right out of combat. So when we come back to society, it could be as simple as thing as just ordering food at a restaurant and they don't make it the way you wanted it or you asked for it.
Yeah.
It's a trigger, right? Because you expect perfection. You expect that. You're like, this is how it's supposed to be done. How did you mess that up?
I never connected those dots that would be the reason why reactions would be extra high on things that when things aren't done correctly, just out in the world. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because it's the expectation of, well, if I've had to live the last 8 years or the last 13 months or whatever it was in combat at a certain expectation and I had to perform at a certain level, or the ultimate cost was paid. And then you
Right.
come back here and you're like, it's a burger. How simple can this be, right? And then everybody else is like, so what, they put cheese on it,
Right.
And it's like, but I asked for no cheese.
Right.
It's not that hard.
They're
right?
not following orders.
And the normal society's like, why is he getting so upset about this? Well,
Yeah.
because it's not hard, right?
Oh my goodness.
But
Yeah.
it's just the expectation of
Right.
just trying to convert back to that
Yeah.
mindset
So that's
of
just a-
being in society.
Yeah. So that was just a small example that you gave about ordering a cheeseburger or ordering a hamburger and getting a cheeseburger instead, and how that could you're not used to that level of incompetence, quote unquote incompetence, whenever you are in the military and taking care of business. But there are bigger things,
Yes, much bigger things.
much bigger things.
Those
that
are just
go
the
on.
little things that maybe people would, that's most noticeable, I think, to the outside, from the outside looking in.
that makes
Right.
makes the rest of us who've never been there go, what was that?
But there's so many more demons and struggles going on inside. And so I'll try to explain it. So like when we enter before combat, you're like everybody, you're pretty much on this normal, consistent, like is in a graph, let's say, right? So on this graph, you got this normal line about midway through the graph, and that's normal. And that's where everybody is pretty much at, right? It's just this normal life. Well, when you go into combat, you spend, the months or the year, whatever, in a high vigilance environment, a high vigilant, hyper vigilant, environment. You're that, and you spend that entire time at not your normal line. You're at the top of the graph, right? At an extreme, a different higher level, right? And you have to be, right? As we talk about that mindset that you have to change when you're over there, right? So then after we come back, you know, there's this little honeymoon phase, right? You're just glad to be home. Glad to see mama and dada and girlfriend, wife, spouse, whatever, right? You're in that honeymoon phase. You know, you got food that actually has flavor and spices, and I mean, everything's great, right? But so on that graph, now you're on the low. Get everything, you're below that original normal line in the middle of the graph. Now you're at the bottom of the graph because everything's good. Nothing can go wrong. You're in that honeymoon phase, right?
Yeah.
But that honeymoon phase has an end, unfortunately. And no one prepares us. None of us were prepared for that. No one warned us about these things. And so when that honeymoon ends, whether it's months after you get back or a year or 2 years or whatever, years after you get back, that honeymoon phase ends. And when it ends, you revert back to the top of the graph again. But you're not in combat anymore. You're at the top of the graph, but you're in your home.
So you're not returning just back to middle.
No.
You are back to hypervigilance.
Right. And so we struggle internally with our, I say demons, right? With our internal struggles, we struggle trying to get to that normal line is what we were before combat. The problem is we can never reach that. We'll never be, that's not us anymore.
Yeah.
And so we'll never return to that line on the graph that we were. So now we need to find a happy medium, as we call a new normal, that's in between the high, where we were on the top of the graph to where the normal line was before combat. We got to find a happy medium in between the two to where we can function normally in society. Right?
Yeah.
And so that we can come at peace with our demons and help us fight our demons and live it out. And we get that, not peace, but I guess you could say peace, but there's not total peace all the time, right? But you have that understanding. And for those of us veterans that were, you know, you're fighting to get to that normal, what you once knew as normal, you know, we know there's something wrong with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But we can't admit it, you know, and we can't just, it's not in our blood to say, okay, hey, something's wrong. I need help, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. So the asking for help because you're the big, tough soldier.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you get injured in combat, you know, you throw a bandage on it or whatever, or you put a tourniquet on around above it or whatever, you continue the fight.
Yeah.
Because the fight's not over. So you continue on, right? So, you know, and as any of the veterans know, and anybody in the military, you don't go to the doctor, you know, you just don't do it, right? And that's the way it was in my generation. I can't speak for the new generation in the military now because it's a different military from what, you know, when I was in 20-something years ago, right?
Yeah.
But, and I say 20-something years ago, and here we are 20-something years later, and I still have struggles.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but that's okay, right? But I didn't know it was okay. I didn't know it was normal to have these feelings I was having during my darkest times.
And those started, like you said, right whenever you finished your probationary period as a new
Right. I was brand
trooper
new.
in the Texas Highway Patrol.
Right. And as you know, I mean, so I got in another combat situation as a trooper, right? Got shot in the leg, got another shooting there, you know, and I think that was the end of the honeymoon, basically. But I was already kind of having struggles before that.
Yeah.
But I think that was the
brought it
final, I think that was the wall. I think that was the
Yeah.
final, that's it.
Yeah, I remember you saying that being shot in combat was just so much easier
Yes.
than being shot at home.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
So for me, that was different because in combat, you get injured in combat, nobody knows. I mean, as far as your loved ones.
Right.
They're back home, living their life, going to work, doing, you know, whatever they're doing back home, right? whereas they don't know what's going on, and so I could tell them anything I wanted to know, and they never had to know anything about the injuries and, getting shot, getting blown up, getting things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to know that.
Right. So you found yourself in another combat situation, and that kicks off some issues that you were definitely going to have from being in a combat situation at home. Is that when you got involved with the veteran program through DPS? Is that when you connected with those guys?
Yes. I was trying to hide my emotions and my
Mm-hmm.
struggles and my pain
Yeah.
internally, but there was a person in the department that, took the time to care, and he made a phone call, and
Because he saw it.
he saw it.
Yeah.
He saw it in my face, however he saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And he made a phone call to one of the founding fathers of this program. And it wasn't an official program yet. I mean, it was kind of official, but it wasn't official yet, right? There was really no policy or anything like that yet. It wasn't we weren't in the policy of the department's policy yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this guy came. He drove all the way across the state to see me, and he pulled me in, and he expressed, and he told his story and his struggles, and I was like, hey, I'm doing that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he made me, and he basically forced me to realize that I wasn't broken, that I wasn't in this by myself, and I wasn't the only one that was going through these struggles and feeling this. Whether it be survivor's guilt, whether it be, anything and everything, anything that I was struggling with, that there was somebody that could relate.
Mm-hmm.
And I now had somebody that I could talk to and call and be like, hey, this is what I'm going through. Yeah. And understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And so right after that, he was able to basically save me, right? Pull me out of the darkness, of internal darkness that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Does that?
Yeah.
And was able to kind of start bringing me back on track, put me back on the right path of recovery and healing. Right.
Yeah.
And to be able to function normally and more normally, let's put it that way. The new normal, right?
Right. The new normal.
The new normal. He helped me find my new line on that graph that was in between the top and the middle to find my new normal, to where I could function and still be a very productive citizen of the society.
Yes. And that's so important. Now, you referenced the founding fathers. Can you explain why you call those three guys
So those
the
three
founding
guys.
fathers?
So during that time, we had a lot of reservists, people that, department employees that were in the reserves and the National Guard or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had guys that weren't any of that, but when the war kicked off, they said, I'm going to go do my part. And they went and enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
And they went and enlisted in the reserves or the Guard, and then they went and served because that was their calling, right? And a lot of them were veterans before that. But they spent most of their veteran career, their military time in a peacetime, peacetime military or whatever. And when that particular war broke out, they were like, nah, I got to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of them did that. And so when they returned, these three got together. They were all struggling. They were all having their issues. It's the same way I was, or all of us veterans are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they got together and they realized they ended up just getting together, talking as friends, as a group, and they ended up helping each other. And they were like, light bulbs came on. So these founding fathers were like, we got to develop a program. We've got to put something together that is run by veterans. So this program has to be made up of veterans, run by veterans, to take care of our veterans within the department.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because
so,
veterans are the only ones that truly understand
right.
veterans. Mm-hmm.
And that's how DVAP got started. And it was started by combat veterans who had love for their fellow veteran, who wanted to help all of them to find their peace and their calling or whatever, right? And to get out of their darkness. And And that's how it started. And so immediately right after that, I became a sponsor. I became part of DVAP, right? And that was the best counseling or the best fellowship, that I could have ever found.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the best healing process that I could find, just being around guys that weren't there with me per se. Like they didn't ride in the same vehicle, or they didn't walk beside me and clear the same house or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they could relate,
Yeah.
and I think that is huge. And so we have carried that on, and now this program is made up of, there's several of us now that we call sponsors, that are part of this program, and they all genuinely care for their fellow brother and sister and the veterans, right? And then we're spread all over the state now, and it's an awesome program to where we're a peer support team, and then we come in and we'll do all the peer support. We're the voice, we're the ear that they need, and we help them, we link them up to the resources and that they need, that we provide the resources, we show them the resources, and we help them get to the help that they need, regardless of whatever that help might be, right? Because the last thing we want is for them to harm themselves.
Right.
Or others, right?
Right.
We don't want it to get to that point. So if we can intervene and we can do some crisis intervention with our fellow brothers and sisters before it gets to the point of harming themselves or one another or somebody else, that's where we want to intervene, right? So we get that crisis under control and get them and provide the resources and get them to the next step of healing, whatever that step may be, whether it's just a hug from one of us and say, you're not alone, or whether it's a program, a 42-day program somewhere where they just
Like inpatient
type program, right? And whatever it might need, but to get them back on the track and the same track, paying it forward, same thing that David did for me. Now we can do that for all these other veterans, right? And so, I mean, so the resources and the mental health, back when I was going through struggles and I was young, we were young then or whatever, it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right. And if it was there, nobody knew about it.
Right.
It was kind of one of those deals. Just mental health was not a priority in the country during that time. And I think that was, and we have grown so much that there are so many resources now, and not just for veterans, for anybody. There is so much improvement as a society for the mental health of all individuals alone, right? And it's just grown. I think the stigma was so big and so thick of going to see a counselor or a psychiatrist, and now I think we've defeated that stigma to enough to where nobody cares, if you go get help. Like they
want you to get help because they want you to get better, because now we have legitimized the fact that there is, and I say it on this podcast all the time, we are mind, body, and spirit. And you have to take care of all of that in order to take care of any of that. And I've learned that through all the wonderful people that I've had the opportunity to speak with on this podcast, and really had that solidified to me. And that's the same even if you're a big, tough soldier, even if you're someone out there taking care of business in combat and defending your nation and defending other nations, you still are a human being. And as I said earlier, as human beings, we are more alike than we are different, regardless of our station in life and regardless of, where we originate from. We're all human beings when it boils down, and we have to take care of our mental health, especially our veterans, because you guys are put into situations where normal, everyday citizens would not be able to handle those situations. that you're put into, and you have to develop within yourselves ways to manage what you see, what you feel, what you hear, what you deal with as a member of the military.
Right.
And then come back to normalcy and integrate all of that into the life you're living now, where what's appropriate in combat is not appropriate
Right.
at the grocery store.
Yeah. I get reminded of that a lot by somebody.
Yeah.
It's I think the sense of humor is a little different after combat.
Yep.
But we see the world in a way and through different eyes and a different perspective than what everybody else will ever get to dream of seeing it.
Yeah.
It's just like first responders and law enforcement. We see the worst in everybody, and we see the worst in, out here on the streets of society, or whether it be in combat. We see the worst.
And I know
of
what you
humanity.
mean by that when you said we see the worst in everybody. What you don't mean that you automatically assume that every person is the worst.
No.
What you mean is you have the opportunity to see those sides of people through your job. You get to see things. You guys put yourself in the position to see and deal with the worst things in society, so that we are less likely to encounter those things.
Thank you for interpreting that for me.
You're welcome.
But that's exactly what I meant. Because there's so many good people out here. And I think that, today's media, things like that, I think that, what makes a good news story, right, is what's going to be aired.
Yeah.
And I think that all the good in this society and all the good people out there across the world gets put on the back burner because it's not a frontline newspaper. It's a headline. It's not a headline.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I think people forget that the world is still consists of a majority of good people, right? Mm-hmm. And all those good people is worth what's fighting for and keeping the peace, right? And I think that those that are called upon to serve those that we love in society and our countries and our homes and wherever we may live, those of us who are called to protect that. Mm-hmm. I think that's why we do it, because we know there's good, and because if there was nothing worth saving, why would we do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's so much more to this world than I think that people forget, right? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Like, I think and those of us and the veterans and stuff that are struggling, they forget that they're a good person.
They forget that they are a good person.
Right. The same as I did. I'm not worth, I'm not worth being here, You start getting down on yourself. There's so many different aspects of post-traumatic stress, whether it's survivor's guilt or whether it's a moral injury. We don't talk about the moral injuries, being raised that, causing harm to another human being is extremely bad, right? And being raised on that. And then you go to the military, or you get brought into the military in a certain way, depending on which country you're from or where you're from, right? Because a lot of countries don't have that choice.
Right. You serve at a certain age. Yeah.
We're 100% volunteer
for now.
Military, for the most part.
At this point in history,
we were when I went in.
Yes.
And so everybody there nobody was forced to be there.
Right.
Yeah. And so they weren't forced to sign up. Mm-hmm. And, and I think that's where the moral injuries come in. They think that they're, they go over there and unfortunately they have to do something that's against their morals that they grew up with to survive.
Yes.
Right. Or to keep their best friend next to them, their battle buddy next to them, alive. Mm-hmm. And because, that's what it comes down to in combat. You end up fighting for each other.
Yeah. Over
there. Yeah, the ultimate mission and the goal and the objective is to preserve, our country's safety and peace, right? Mm-hmm. But in the middle of combat, in the middle of a fight, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about each other. You're reading your buddies, right? And that's what it comes down to. So I think that people do things, and you know, not a lot of people talk about the moral injuries.
Yeah.
You know, and
So it's like it creates a kind of a cognitive dissonance, a battle between who you think you are and what you have to do, and that they don't match
it's who you think you are and what you had to become.
what you had to become.
Right.
Okay.
And you know, we didn't get to bring everybody home
Right.
from these conflicts. You know, some guys paid the ultimate sacrifice, and God bless them, right? And they're honored, and they'll never be forgotten, especially by those of us who held them at their last moments,
Right.
right? But what people sometimes have a hard time seeing is that just because some of us made it home doesn't mean that we didn't die.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of us, you know, they're saying that some physically died, but all of us died in a way. Right. And what they're talking about is who we were and the person we were before that compared to what we are now.
Yeah.
And all these guys are worth fighting for.
Right.
And there's a lot of love out there from people who weren't veterans that go out of their way to help a veteran. And that is absolutely amazing. And we need a lot more of that, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just the humanity of taking care of each other. You know, I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And that says a lot.
Yeah, I agree. As we approach Veterans Day, what are some of the best ways that we can honor our veterans?
Well, you can always thank them. And that's what people do. That's the most common way of just, you see a veteran, you say, hey, thank you for your service, right? And just don't be surprised if they don't give you the reaction that you expect. Like, oh, thank you. Yeah, you're probably not going to get that, right? You're not going to get a hug from the guy or gal when you say, hey, thanks for your service.
Right.
They're going to be like, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And they're going to move on. Don't be surprised if they don't get all giddy about your thankfulness. It's just the way that they are because they didn't do it for the thanks.
Right.
Right. They didn't do it so they could come home and be thanked all the time. Right. But just to know that people are thankful for what they did, it does mean something to them, and it means a lot to them. They just may not express it the way that you expect when you do tell them thank you.
Sure.
So just be prepared for that, right? And and if you know, support your local veteran support systems in your communities. That's big. If you want to show your love for the veterans or whatever, take care of your local veterans. Support the veteran services officers in the area who help veterans, who reach out and help them get to the medical attention and stuff that they need, and help them get to the benefits that they deserve or what they're eligible for, and help them get that. You can support them. You can support these programs that, inpatient programs that do wonders for people. I mean, there are great programs out there. And there are some that might be a little questionable, or not maybe it's questionable, we just don't know about it yet.
Yeah, you need to do your research
So
to make sure the money's going where they say it's going.
Yeah, do your research, and if they're actually doing good for veterans, then support them.
Absolutely. In Texas, we have Warrior's Heart.
Yeah, so Warrior's Heart has multiple locations, but the one that I'm most familiar with is here in Texas, obviously.
Oh, okay. So it's not just in Texas.
Right.
I only knew about the Texas.
So, but, it was created for veterans and first responders. So it's not just veterans, but out of all the ones that I've been able to get an insight to and get a tour of and see, it's the best program that I've ever seen that's out there. I absolutely love it.
Because of the difference it makes and
the difference it makes, the fact that they heal, right? It's not just a coping they don't give them a coping skill. They actually heal them. It's
That's awesome.
it's one of the greatest programs that I've been a pleasure to be able to go see, or get a tour of and to help support, right? So there's programs like that's out there in the communities that's all over the country that could just do great things, right? And because they deserve to have a peaceful life.
Yeah.
We all do, whether you're a veteran or not, and to be able to heal and to find that peace within yourself is a great gift,
Yes.
right? And to keep them around, and they're not harming themselves or anything like that, and that they become an asset and a vital piece of their society, of their community. And that's what we want for them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of programs. It's not just, let's say, it's DVAP within our department, right? It all starts with love for your fellow man. That's where it starts, is sharing, me going in and sharing my experiences and talking about my experiences with another veteran,
Yeah.
helping them to understand it's okay to take that next step to get better, right? And then once they do that, it's a success, right? Most of the time, right? And we that's what we want. That's the ultimate goal, is that success, and to get them back on the path that they need to be on.
Absolutely. So for those of us who are coming up on Veterans Day and want to show our support and our appreciation to veterans, we can thank them for their service. We can look around for what organizations in our community or in our state really focus on and help the veterans as they come back into society and as they're living now after their military service, and support them in the best ways that we can. And we want to support those organizations that do that for veterans as well. And so just as we approach Veterans Day this November, in just a few days, take the time to think about, as you are going through your day, living your life, not having to think about the dangers that surround you at every single moment. That is because of the people who are standing in the gap, standing between us and that danger. Move forward this week, and as we move toward Tuesday, November 11th, with gratitude in your heart for the people who raise their hand and say, I'll do it. I'll stand in the gap.
There's 365 days in a year. You don't have to thank them just on November 11th.
That's true.
It's just a reminder to thank them. You have 365 days a year to take care of a veteran and thank them for what they've done and their sacrifices. And don't forget their families. They sacrificed their son, to serve.
Gold Star families.
Well, not only that, but even those that came home.
That's true.
These mothers and fathers, they were willing to. They had to be. They gave basically their son and daughter to the country.
Yeah.
So don't forget to thank them too.
That's so true. I remember when our son John, has now been in the Navy. He's in his 7th year in the Navy right now. But when he first went to boot camp, what seems like many moons ago at this point, that was hard when he left and there was no way to communicate with him. And I really struggled with that. And I have to share a quick story. Rod, if you're listening, you know who you are, and this one's for you. So I was sitting on the couch. I don't think I got out of my robe or off the couch much for about 3 days after he left, because I'd never been in a position where I could not communicate with my son. And I knew that he was going to be in a difficult position and unusual for him, and be having this huge adjustment without me there he was 18 years old at the time. And that just seemed so young to go take on such a big thing. And I finally just got so in my feelings that I had to post on Facebook. So I make a Facebook post, oh, it's so hard that John's gone and I'm just missing him, and not being able to communicate with him is tough. I don't remember everything I actually said, but I know that's what I was feeling, so I probably just put that out there. And I was looking for my own little pity party for people to join me and go, oh, so sad, poor you. And some probably did. The interesting thing is I don't remember any of those. I remember getting a private message in Facebook Messenger from a good friend of mine named Rod, and I won't spill last names here, that he said, John has a new mama now, and that's the United States Navy, and it's time for the original one to stand down. And the way I needed to hear that in that moment, no amount of pats on the back where we feel so sorry for you was really going to do it. It was when Rod said he's got a new mama now, and it's not you. And I really appreciated the fact he called me the original one and not the old one. Was handy too.
Yeah.
But all that to say, like that's a very fun memory of that time of kind of being having a big, truth bomb dropped in the middle of my pity party. And I really appreciated that. And I appreciate Rod's general approach to life. So that was really good for me. But having said that, it's a transition for everybody when your child goes to the military and offers themselves up for the good of the country and the good of the citizens of the country. And hopefully ultimate goal for the good of the world.
Absolutely.
That's what they intend to do.
The patriotic mothers.
Yeah.
She's in her robe, and I'm like, go get you some, boy.
Yeah.
You know?
You were
I
not
fought with that.
moping. You were not moping with me at all.
You get a little bit of what you deserve, but
No.
I'm joking.
He was like, what you put me through in high school, you're going to get a little bit of that from some drill sergeants.
No, it was great because I knew that, he was going to be better for it.
Yeah.
He was going to be
He's
better
going to
for it.
grow up.
He was
He's
going to
gonna
grow up. He was going to do some growth.
Yeah. As
Really
his
fast.
mom, I contend that he was awesome going in. But yeah, he's a super good man today, for sure. He's a super
He's
good
done
man.
better than I ever did in the military, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And again, good for it, too.
Yes.
Good
Yeah.
for it.
We were proud of him.
Very proud of him. And a shout out to our fathers who served in the Vietnam era. And
In the Navy, both our dads were Navy, Vietnam era.
both my grandfathers served in World War II, one Army, one Navy.
And one of mine did,
Yeah.
James Porter. Yeah.
A lot of generations of serving this country. And it's probably going to continue on,
Yeah.
as far as we know. So that's awesome. I
Yeah,
mean,
so that also speaks to our investment in veterans and why it matters so much, and why I just couldn't let Veterans Day just kind of go by unacknowledged by the Gen X Juggler podcast. Thank you for joining us today to talk about
Absolutely.
veterans, little tiny bit of insight into the big stuff that they go through. And if you have a business where you hire veterans, consider peer support type programs, because they really do benefit
Absolutely.
the veterans.
Absolutely. And I could have sat here and talked about it for another 3 more hours probably and gone in depth, but
Yeah.
you got the summary.
Yeah.
That's okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Chad, for joining us. And
I got to be here.
me
Glad I got
too.
to be part of the podcast.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop.
Got to use the mic I got to buy.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gonna take your place. Yeah, I think we should meet in the middle. I follow you 'cause you're the light of the day. I need you like you need me, it's so simple. It's so simple.